If I say anything that you don't agree with, let's just leave it at that. It's not about anything other than whatever comes out, comes out. The Magic Valley. Earth DNA, poles, genetic memory, ancient spirit, sky, Father Sky, the Magic Valley, Earth, Mother Earth. Childhood distances, hard to remember what was never to be forgotten, never to be forgotten. Predators stalk all living things. The death mask feeds on living essence. Feelings become fugitives. Emotions, cold alibis. When hurt, can't hurt anymore. Raged ones rise, feeding the beast. All aggression is justified, and the beast grows. Flow of thought, harnessed into mindsets. A damning, diseased spirits. Cannibals and vampires feast, mining minds in civilized ritual. The religion of business and machine. Pay homage to technologic gods. At material altars, the mass prays a prayer of need and wanting more. Earth DNA pulls, genetic memory, ancient spirit, sky, Father Sky, the Magic Valley, Earth, Mother Earth, what was never to be forgotten, children of Earth. What we see affects our realities. What is always to be remembered, the beast needs us to believe, always to be remembered. Free our minds, free the reality. I come from the tribes. I remember that much of my identity. What I remember with my genetic memory, which is the basis of many of my realities, is that the people need to live with the earth, not on it, not from it, with it. Democracy is the enemy of the tribes. Technologic, industrial civilization is the enemy of the tribe. It is the enemy of the natural world. The concept of male-dominating gods is the enemy of the natural world. Before there was a democracy, or before there was even the concept of democracy, the tribes were the majority of the people on this hemisphere. Then came the democracy, and now there is a democracy, and the tribes are the smallest numerical minority. The whole abstraction that people keep hurtling about democracy, it makes it a very ugly lie. The reasoning and the excuses that are made, no, that's not the way democracy is supposed to work. I don't accept that. Democracy does exactly what it was designed to do. Protect and perpetuate the interest of the ruling class landowner. If America is the seat of democracy, if you are a white male, you didn't get to vote or have any say in the concept if you didn't own land. If you were a woman, you were considered to be inferior, so therefore you had no say because your intelligence was not respected. If you were black, you were property, so therefore you had no say. And if you were from the tribes, an Indian, you were the majority, so therefore you were the enemy. Because the idea of majority rule obviously couldn't work with their perception. Communism, capitalism, socialism, Nazism, they're all different ways of painting the face of the predator. They're different masks that this small industrial ruling class, this ethnic rich, these are the ways they paint the mask on so that everyone thinks it's a little bit different. But the net result of this is the ethnic ruling class, the industrial rich, a small minority of people that profit from all of this. As a tribe, see, I don't want to get into your political messes and concepts, but it threatens our survival. If the American people don't start to get it pretty soon about what is going on, that's an immediate threat to us. See, now we have survived to this point because we've had the sympathizers, and somehow that's kind of just, it's kept us alive in some bizarre abstract way. But now they're talking about New World Order. for us as tribes, it's in our best interest that somehow the citizens of America start to understand what is happening. But there seems to be a problem in getting the citizens to really think about it because, see, it's un-American, it's planted in the mind, it's negative to question democracy. Nobody even wants to think it. So every decision that you make to correct the problem, you keep it in this abstraction that has no respect for any of you's voice. Because it was created to protect the interest of the ruling class property owner. Now we face serious things. The way they have discovered of murdering the air and the water and attacking the earth with this new deadliness they have created, these new concepts and forms of death that have been created. Face that. In Europe, they had the plagues. The human uncleanliness ravaged Europe at some point in the Dark Ages. Well, now there's a technological uncleanliness. And it's ravaging the environment that the people need to live. Literally, our act has to be cleaned up. We need to at least not be afraid to think and consider the realities of what are going on. DNA, descendant and ancestor. We are the descendants, but we are also the ancestors. We have a responsibility to take care of our descendants, the ones we are the ancestors to. We have a responsibility to do that. Our relationship to the earth in the reality of power, not the illusion of authority. We've been programmed with this great illusion that authority is power, but it's not. The authority is something else. The real power is in our relationship to the earth and the universe. Real power is in relationship with us to ourselves, human, physical, being, spirit. Real power is in the relationship of the human to the being, to the earth. Now that's what real power is. Everything else is an illusion of real power. And it only becomes power when we step into the illusion and no longer understand the reality. See, our whole relationship to the earth changed with the concept of the male-dominating God. Because the notion of the male-dominant God is that all spiritual value was converted to religious value and placed above the earth. Changing, viewing the earth as the mother entity. That perception to one of a male removed from the earth. Then it became all right to attack the earth. And the attitude became from protecting the earth to exploiting the earth. Now what we have in common, we all have the DNA of the earth. We are made up, flesh and blood, of the materials of the earth. That's who we are. We are a part of earth and water. So obviously, in terms of real power, our connection is into protecting that, because that's what we are a part of. Our genetic memory is the information that goes all the way back to our beginning. We are the ancestors and the descendants. Every one of us have in common is that at some point in the history of our people, we were all tribes. Every one of us are descendants from tribes. The Indians of the Western Hemisphere resisted. The way that the tribes resisted within the more recent history was the same way your ancestors resisted in the ancient history. Nobody took the male-dominating God thing willingly. This has everything to do with sexism. There really wasn't this notion of sexism when we were the tribes. The tribes understood the value of male-female in the natural real world. So there was this tremendous amount of respect because people understood the balance of power. So the woman had to be attacked because she represented the earth. She represented too much in the minds of the people. Revisionism. The tribes of Europe, they related to the earth as the mother, but in terminology as the goddess. The serpent was close to the earth, represented the goddess. They knew they couldn't erase that from the minds of the people. So what they did was they created Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden. So then the woman and the serpent brought sin. This was deliberately done. It's in our best interest to understand the realities that we have to deal with. Because at some point, we have to face our responsibility about the DNA, about our role in the continuation and the evolution. The way it's obviously going is that there probably in the end is no political solution, no economic solution, no military solution. There is no existing solution. We have to create it. More than save the democracy, more than save the male-dominating God concepts, which basically have to do with obedience and subservience. These dominating predatory concepts, at some point, we're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to protect this earth, or are we going to protect these things that have been designed to feed off of us? Predatory energy. The same way they can take and mine the resources of the earth and turn it into a fuel to run the machine electrical world that we're becoming more and more a part of. There's a way that they have created to mine the spirit. Human, physical being, spirit. To mine the being through the human. To feed off of our spirit and our essence. When they're feeding off of that, there's no way there can be any balance or any clarity. And that we need excess. We need these other things that the other energy system is creating. Look at the electric neon world we're in now. We see the results. Pollution. People become more and more environmentally aware. The internal mining process, the mining of the being through the human. Every insecurity, fear, and paranoia that you have, don't want to face, every self-doubt is the pollution left over from the mining of our essence or spirit. Because it's in the best interest of the predator that we don't see clearly. Because it's all about perception. It's a diseased spirit. Columbus was a diseased spirit. And everybody that came with him was carrying the same disease, the disease of possession. Somebody possessed them. Civilization possessed them. So therefore, they were driven mad by possession, and they had to possess. And they changed everything to the perception of possession. Love came from possession. Hate turned into possession. Joy, everything turned into possession. And therefore, nothing was free again. And it drove the people mad. But because everybody was obedient, going along with the established new terminology, it was called normal. But look at the history of the behavior. It was very, very aggressive. The history of Western civilization is based upon intense amounts of blood sacrifice. They sacrificed your ancestors, the tribes, in order to get you to accept what you accept today. They terrorized, psychological brutal warfare until the people accepted. When Columbus came here was during the time of the Inquisition, 900 years ago. Your ancestors, your European ancestors, were still praying the old ways. They were still following the Spirit. The Inquisition became the means and the vehicle of establishing the authority of the church over the people on the land, turning the church into God on earth. And in order to get the people to accept that whole concept, they had the Inquisition. And the Inquisition was, if you challenged that concept, you were guilty of heresy. And if you were accused of it, you were guilty. If I accuse you of heresy, then you got to go in front of the board. And he says, you're all guilty. And it's mandatory that we have to torture you. Mandatory. Anybody accused, they were automatically guilty and had to be tortured and then killed. And anybody that was guilty, then the church got to take all their property. 500 years, this went on. So by the time Columbus got here, in the 400th year of it, they were all insane. They had been driven mad. There's a difference between religion and spirit. Religion is a way of feeding upon spirit. We have a spiritual responsibility to life and the universe. Spirit and responsibility are one thought. We have a spiritual responsibility. But these dominator religions, they don't teach us about spiritual responsibility. They teach us about guilt, sin, and blame. The trinity of the chain. But that whole concept of guilt, sin, and blame is not about responsibility. It's about not taking responsibility. It's about blame. It's about shifting responsibility. Once we get the concept that it applies to us, just for being here, questions I will bring about the Bible, right, is I don't trust the interpreters. They were all men, they never took baths, and they never saw a woman. So that tells you something about the coverage you're going to get, right? Not being blasphemous or sacrilegious. I didn't create it, I'm only a victim of it. We are attacked in such a way, the mining process. The reality is we enter into this world and we will leave this world. That's the way that it works. But in the technologic, male-dominator God civilization, it's called birth and death. And it's given a different meaning. And through religious definition, it is basically saying that everybody's guilty for being born. The number one crime is just being here. Our sin had to do with because we came out of a woman's body. See, there were people that influenced the religions you believe in that thought like that. It was the sin, which I find interesting. But once it sinks into the mind about the industrial concept of death, see, because it's not about spirit. See, I mean, you look at it. If you are a good religious person and you obey and accept all of the injustice and all of the aggression and accept all of the wrong and the lie and the deceit and the double speak and the illusion and accept all of those things, then you will go to heaven. And in heaven you will meet a male God sitting on a physical throne, streets of gold, pearly gates, all material. What about the spirit? But if you don't obey, then you go to hell. See, down there, it's a man with a tail and a pitchfork and fire. All physical world concept, material world concept. Nothing about the spirit. So they plant those concepts and then tell us when we enter into this reality that we're guilty for being here. They tell us we're on the road to hell. And only by being subservient to their brutality and aggression and hypocrisy can we redeem ourselves. Now that's the practical reality of religion. I do not mean to offend anyone, but the reality is maybe we should be offended by that practical reality. Now the guilt part. We enter into this reality. And when we enter into this reality as human beings, our life becomes a continuum of experiences. We have one experience after another. We are to learn from those experiences to help us deal with the next experience. So whatever we encounter, we are not to judge ourselves by it. We are not to condemn ourselves by the negative experiences. We just need to figure out how to keep from having those experiences as we enter on into our journey. Learn from what has happened to us. But we're not supposed to take it as little balls and chains, all right, and weigh ourselves down with it. Now, when we were all in our tribal common ancestry, we had our communities to live in harmony and respect with the universe. So everybody in the community taught us the lessons we needed to know, and we knew our purpose, we knew what we were doing, we knew everything was good for us. So we didn't make as many mistakes. And there was no guilt, sin, and blame. It was about responsibility as a human being. We have that in a common past. Then it got changed about the acceptability of advertising. It's so normal. But every advertisement is an attack against our essence and our spirit, because every advertisement is telling us that our value will increase by what we consume. They subliminally attack us every waking hour we have. It's almost like genocide against the spirit. See, and I think it's working. America right now looks like Jonestown to me, in a very suicidal frame of mind. Because the American citizens, they don't listen to the teachings of their ancient ones, teachings of their past. They listen to industrial ruling class exploiters. While they have no spiritual affinity, they feel connected to their past. It shows the condition that the earth is being turned into, that they have no spiritual relationship to their descendants. It's like whatever this thing is, it's eating up the spirit of the people. See, so now the tribes, all the hell we raise and all we get involved to is we don't want that to happen to us. That's what our trip is. We want that to happen to us. Because we see it. And we know that that's not living. We know that somewhere somebody's trading living for surviving, and that's not living. And we must not allow them to trick us into believing that it is. But we're programmed to not like ourselves enough or trust ourselves enough to truly do anything. We're programmed. That's what all the doubts, the insecurities, all that pollution, it ends up in our thought process because of the negative way this predatory system feeds upon us. Well, then obviously it reaches a point, the further we become separated from our spiritual reality or our reality to the earth, then the more powerless people start to feel. I live in a society as an oppressed person, and I understand and recognize that I'm an oppressed person, but I don't feel powerless. And I turn around and look at the citizens of America. They don't feel oppressed. They feel powerless. And it makes me have to question, because they're allegedly the best educated people in the world. How come they feel powerless? They have the highest economy in the world. How come they feel powerless? You ever feel like something's missing from your life? That's what they're sucking out of you. It's the energy that's being taken out. We need to find a cure for this predatory disease that lives in the mind. It affects our perceptions. It's not about revolution. Every revolutionary loses because they got to be badder than the bad to change it. And it's like once you pick it up, hard to put it down. It's about evolution. We're here at the right time. We're here at the right time. Time is on our side. It's just a matter for us to accept ourselves for who we are. See, I have no identity crisis. My DNA is of this earth. I know who I am. And there's nothing anybody going to ever say to change my recognition. I know where I come from. I'm good and bad and a whole mix of a whole lot of things, but that's me. I accept that. And it doesn't make me invalid. It doesn't mean that whatever I have to contribute has no value. That is us. That is our story. We are human beings. We live in a different time when we don't have our ancestors. We don't have the community to teach us the lessons. So within this life, we make harder mistakes because it's a harder world. But in the nature of evolution, there's a reason to all of this, and if we would just get it, within a 2 or 3 generation period of time, we could change everything if we would use our minds to create those solutions. But first, we have to accept ourselves. We're not guilty. We're responsible for whatever we do, but that's not guilt. And whatever we do, if we can't live with it and we can't handle it, then don't do it. It's that simple. And if we used to do it and like it, but now we realize we shouldn't have done it, well, enjoy that you liked it. Take anything away from our essence. It's a part of the experience. And we go on. We should never lie to ourselves about what we're up to, even if we don't like it. Even if it means it's a hard face to look at. We shouldn't lie to ourselves. We should establish our own basis of reality. And the only way we can establish our own basis of reality is to tell ourselves the truth. Because we will start to become more coherent. See, we should sort out the lies of self-rationalization and justification. We should know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it will influence and affect our behavior. Because we start to see more clearly. Understanding a lot of situations where somebody's going to start out to do something, and then there's a bad result. And they say, well, that wasn't my intention. Living the life we never intended. And it made me think about that because a lot of times we'd run into this where I know people were trying to do something good, but the result wouldn't be what they intended. I've come to understand one day that it's kind of like our ages and our seasons. The 4 seasons, the 4 ages. Infant is identity. Youth is learning. And adult is knowledge. And maybe if we get old, it's wisdom. They run parallel to the 4. There's motive, intent, understanding, and action. And a lot of problems that we have in this world is always our intentions will be good, but we never question our motives. And so I mean about being honest with ourselves. Our motives are in synchronicity with our intentions, then our understanding will be in synchronicity, and therefore our action will be. So we should never lie to ourselves about what we're up to. It will help us. It will help us. You know, because our definitions of reality are very necessary. We are born, enter into this reality with the abilities to make those definitions. The existing definitions are just ways of mining our spirit. You know, they tell us whoever's got the biggest gun is powerful, but that's about violence. It's not about power. They tell us whoever controls the most money is powerful, but that's about greed. That's not about power. But if we believe those things are power, then what does that say about us? We're giving it. And that's how we feed it. It's how it drinks our essence. Through our beliefs. I tried to believe, but I had a problem with it because there's a lie in the middle. B-E-L-I-E-V-E. So either we know or we don't. You know, kind of how it works. But our instincts and our intuitions are a part of knowing. And if we would trust ourselves and accept ourselves, we have it all. We have all this information. America drove me crazy. But it's all right. Because I looked at the sane and I thought, wow. Because all this is acceptable to them. I mean, all the sane and the normal, they voted for Bill and Hillary and Al. I can't let them slide. See, Bill Clinton is just another one of those painted masks. His job is to get us to accept what we wouldn't have accepted with George. Because when George puked in the emperor's lap, that was it. Ooh, I'm serious. That was it for George. Made the good old boys club look seriously bad. So we got Bill. Because Bill believes in Bill. And he don't believe in nothing else. Bill believes in Bill. He's an interesting paradox. Wouldn't go to Vietnam because he didn't believe in war and didn't want to kill women and children. But it's all right down in Waco to do it. And those people in Waco, these people were executed on the basis of an accusation. It's very important. Maybe one of the most important things in Bill Clinton's whole trip. Because all the other lies that he's telling and he's programmed to put into us are lies. We will see if I'm nuts or not about this, but this thing down here was like direct action. And these people were accused of a crime. Very important to remember that, how many people were killed? 80, 90 people. On the basis of an accusation, and America accepted it like it was watching Cops. Like it was a TV show. See, and it's a very serious sign to me about the ruthlessness of the state. The danger of Bill is that he comes from our generation and everybody's so desperate to believe. Everybody's so desperate to shoot up the fix of a promise that they accept Bill. But Bill's problem, was when he said he didn't inhale, everyone should have understood. I know people who never did stop inhaling. And I trust them much more than I trust him. But it was the lie everybody wanted to hear. For our generation, it was a cute lie. We accept it. But the deal is, it opened the door for a whole lot of lies. Now, NAFTA. Let's look at NAFTA. We're watching Hillary. You know how desperate everyone is, see, and the women are being drawn into this political system. To the women, it's a big victory, every woman that gets in there. When you vote for president, I don't have the computers plugged in. I think that's a lot of trust to give to one person who programs the computers that count the votes. That's a lot of trust. So anything can be decided and go many ways. My own personal opinion is that the presidents aren't picked by the people anymore. It's all guerrilla theater. All right? And the decision is made way before, and all the rest is just theater, so that it hypes everybody up and gives them an adrenaline boost, new shot of hope, right? And then back down to the same old thing. But NAFTA. Now, if my understanding of NAFTA is correct, they're going to create an economic policy council. They will set economic policy. See, now, the economic policies that are set by this group of people, their economic decisions supersede all existing federal, state, or local community laws. If some country sues because of unfair trade, the higher standard that you have, environmental standard, some country sues that it's unfair trade to them, then they have to change the environmental standard. And when you think about spotted owls and trees, and you think about the rivers and the lakes, and you think about all of the things that you've been working so hard to protect the environment, excuse my language, but these folks just went in there and completely took it away from you. And who did it? Al. He beat up on Ross Perot in a debate. Al, the environmental president. See, now, you're not going to get to see this next year. You're not going to get to see it next month. But trust me, your children will understand it very well. New World Order. New World Order. Bill Clinton is a part of it. I bring this out because we should not be blindly led because we need to believe. We should never lie to ourselves. So when we see whatever's going on, we shouldn't lie to ourselves about it, even if we can do no more at the time than tell ourselves the truth about it. But we should call it for what it is. Because otherwise, watch out for the Pied Piper. In our generation, we've always been a threat. The way that it works. If you have a group of people that are a threat, then you find the one that you can work the most reasonably with, and you empower him. They call it puppet governments and shit. So we have a generation that has always been a threat. The baby boom generation rebelled against the system as it was, and the reason the baby boom generation rebelled had to do with economics. America was the most affluent society that had ever been created when the baby boom generation was young. And as a result of this created affluency, the young people rebelled against the existing dark ages, the old world order. It terrified the old world order. Because this generation, hey, these are the slave workers for the next 30 years. We need them to obey. We need them to feed our economy in our whole way. So they set into effect a redistribution of the wealth. The first step of it took place in the form of an energy crisis in the 70s. So the price of oil went up. And all good Americans said, well, it's the Arabs. We'll blame the Arabs. We accept that reasoning. It's the Arabs. Along with the price of the oil, that meant the price of everything went up. Everything. Because this baby boom generation is maturing. They're getting families. They're getting these responsibilities. So it tightened the economic noose. Because the other danger of this baby boom generation is that at some point, through maturing and the natural process, they're going to be the only ones alive. And all the other ones will be gone. So in order to make sure that their rules still stand, they had another redistribution of the wealth to take care of the 80s. We call it excessive Pentagon military spending and savings and loan. But that was an act of treason. It was a political act with a criminal face painting. But it was an act of treason. Anyway, so these billions and billions of dollars are robbed through these 2 decades. So that by the time the baby boom generation can assume what is defined as political power, economic power has been removed about 10 generations. And welcome to the neon fiefdom. So, and Bill doesn't get it. He really doesn't. I mean, Bill and Hillary are busy playing the cleavers. Which, see, and that world excludes the majority of the world when you play the cleavers. It's all Ward, June, Beeve, and Wally. And Eddie. Takes care of it. It's got nothing to do with our realities and our responsibilities. We have the ability, and we must take responsibility to do the best that we can with the best that we got. And understand that we're in the right time and in the right place, and if we will allow ourselves to use our minds as clearly and coherently as we possibly can, we will affect the change that must come. We are a part of evolution. All right? The way that this murderous society, because when you poison the life support environments, the air and the water, and you make it so that it's unfit to use and you can no longer use it, then that to me is murder. So we make the decision ourselves how we're going to deal with it. But first we have to trust ourselves enough to use our minds as clearly and coherently as we can. And all the rest of it will fall into place. It will all fall into place. The earth is a living entity. Earth is not death, earth is life. If the earth was death, then we would have no life. So earth is a living entity. And if we would just allow ourselves to open up in however way we figure out to do it, we can tap into that. The consciousness. It's a matter of whether we're willing to accept that reality. But you watch. If you notice, historically, people reach a state of powerlessness when they no longer have a relationship to the land. For us, we have to make decisions now. Are we going to be good human beings, or are we going to be good citizens? We can't be both. You know, I didn't create those rules, I didn't make them up, but the reality is they are there, and if we do not lie to ourselves, if we will tell ourselves the truth, then we will understand we can't be both. Because the rules of civilization don't allow it. They prevent it. Because the way their laws are applied, we cannot do both. So we will see if our genetic memories activate. We will see if we remember that we come from a people that are older than this civilization. What we need to evolve towards is understanding that the way to live with the earth is with a tribal perception. To live in harmony with the earth and keep the harmony the best that we can. We can evolve to that situation. We can make the technology and all of these things change to that situation. But the situation has to change. All right? It's going to change. Now, if we just allow it to eat our spirit and erase our brains and our thought process, then the change will come, the earth will change, and we don't get to have this anymore. Or, the opportunity is we are now the antibiotic to this disease that's infesting the world. See, the world has now created an antibiotic, our generation. So if we will use our mind, then we can influence the change. But any way you cut it, it can't stay as it is. Okay, I'm going to close with a poem. Happiness is how we feel about ourselves. The good we think, the good we feel, the good we do. We are part of the dream time. Happiness is one of the colors. There are shadow casters who trick us about happiness. We are taught to wish for things to make us happy. We are not taught to dream for happiness itself. We can't buy happiness. We can't sell it. We can't steal it. We can't borrow it. And we can't capture it. But we can create it. Love can't bring us happiness, but happiness can bring us to love. Power can't bring us happiness, but happiness can show us power. On the line of what is real and what really isn't, dream for happiness. Somewhere between heart and mind, the spirit of life can be seen. Happiness comes in a way to dream.